Welcome to this Sunday's live stream, the geopolitics live stream. You can see we have this beautiful weather outside the Opera House in Odessa. This will be the last live stream with this glorious sunshine, probably for a while. So the big things coming up this week in geopolitics to do with the Russo-Ukrainian war. The biggest thing is actually happening today, and it's not happening in Ukraine. Up the road in Chisinau, the capital of Moldova, there are the parliamentary elections, and well, it's for the whole of Moldova, but obviously the capital is where the seat of government is. And the current government is pro-EU, pro-Moldova joining the European Union. They are a candidate country. They have a target date to join in 2030. And the president is also pro-EU. That would be Maya Sandu. Her party is known as PAS, P-A-S. However, the parliamentary elections are heavily contested. I've looked through the opinion polls, and it's very hard to get a sense of the probability of the current party, which is pro-EU, already in the new parliament or not. It would seem that it's highly likely that a majority of Moldovans living in Moldova are going to either vote for pro-Kremlin parties or parties that claim to be European Union, pro-European Union, but however, previously many of their candidates were pro-Kremlin, so it seems a bit ambiguous if they really had a conversion, including the presidential candidate who ran against her back in December and lost, who was pro-Kremlin, and now he says he's pro-EU. Highly dubious, but the big thing to watch out for will be the diaspora vote, because most of the Moldovan diaspora that votes lives in the European Union or lives in the collective West, shall we say, because they also live in the United Kingdom and in the US, Canada, and they, judging by what happened last year in the election and in the EU referendum, the constitutional referendum, they tend to break 90% in favor of PAS and the pro-EU president, Maya Sandu. So that is going to be roughly a 10 percentage point swing in favor of the ruling party, assuming they vote in the same way. So what has been happening in the last few weeks is we've seen huge amount of pro-Kremlin campaigning, shall we say. So it can be real campaigning, but with foreign financing, which make it illegal. Many of the parties and candidates have actually been prevented from running under accusations that they have been receiving funding illegally from the Kremlin, and also lots of misinformation, malinformation, and disinformation, which is to be expected. What is different in this election is the extent, and also the fact that they have been targeting, Moscow's been targeting the pro-EU diaspora that lives abroad and trying to dissuade them from voting from the ruling party. So we will see how effective that campaign will have been. There are many people in Moldova who are unhappy with the current economic situation. There was a lot of inflation a few years ago as a result of the war, and Moldova deciding to reduce its energy dependency on Russia. That led to an increase in prices. At the same time, overall, having been to Moldova many times, the economy is improving in general. The city, definitely the capital, is a lot nicer than it used to be. You can see how things are transforming. That does not mean that everybody is happy with the geopolitical pivot towards joining the European Union. Moldova had been ambiguous on which side it was going to be. It was, in general, I would say, since independence, a little bit more pro-Kremlin in its political orientation than pro-Brussels. That changed rather dramatically with the election in 2020 of Maya Sandu. She won re-election late last year. And now we will see if the Moldovan people are going to vote for a pro-EU candidate, pro-EU parliament. And if that is the case, that would mean that the political options for the Kremlin to influence Moldova, which is part of the Russian Empire, but like here in Odessa, also was part of the Soviet Union, their ability going forward will be extremely limited, because there will not be another set of elections for the presidency or for the parliament for almost 5 years. And at that point, Moldova will be on the cusp of joining the European Union if everything goes well. If, on the other hand, a pro-Kremlin majority forms in the parliament, you will have a situation where there will be a president, a pro-Kremlin parliament, and it will be very hard to pass any legislation. The reform project, which is necessary in order to meet the criteria to join the European Union, will almost certainly stall. So Moldova is fast track as it has been towards joining the European Union, considering they only became a candidate country in 2022, will stall for at least while that parliamentary session, if it has a pro-Kremlin majority, is there. Plus, it will become a major geopolitical headache for Ukraine. Obviously, we've got the Russo-Ukrainian war, and Ukraine is valiantly defending itself against Russian aggression. However, I mean, it's just right beside us here in Odessa. If there is another front opened, you have Transnistria, which is a pro-Russian de facto independent republic in Moldova. It's not recognized by anyone else. That is recognized at the UN, for example. However, this will also give the Kremlin a way to perhaps even not just stall the path towards EU membership, but maybe slowly but surely be able to reverse it and eventually get in a full pro-Kremlin government in Moldova, and that would be a major problem for Ukraine, and it may lead to some conflict at some point because of those Russian troops that are in the Transnistrian region. So definitely there are big stakes at play in today's elections for the Kremlin, for Kiev, and for the people of Moldova. The path towards EU membership is one that, if you look at, say, Poland as an example, it promises a huge amount economically for the country. However, the Kremlin is determined to keep or to regain control of all of its former territories when it was it still is de facto an empire when it was formerly an empire, and we have this last real political opportunity for them. So we will find out tomorrow. At the latest, well, it should be at the latest, we'll know the results tomorrow, and then we can see there is a risk of some violence in Moldova. I think that is particularly acute if the pro-EU government wins. It is very possible that there are pro-Kremlin forces that will try to cause violence in Moldova. Moldova has been arresting people that they claim have been preparing to organize such violence if the elections don't go their way. So we will find out a lot tomorrow. That is the main story that I have for you, is what will happen in Moldova later today. It's actually remarkably warm. I do have this jacket, but now I realize that for my second live stream of the day on my lifestyle channel, I'm going to have to take this off a minute because it's way too warm with the sun at my back here. Drop your comments down below, your questions about Moldova, about the elections, or any big stories you think are coming up in the next week. And I will be back with you with more videos from here in Odessa. This is Geopolitics from Ukraine with Connor Klein. I have a background in international relations, and I've been living here in the region for over a decade. I speak the local languages, whether it's Russian, Ukrainian, or Romanian. And I'm here to give you a more unique and insightful perspective on the happenings of the Russo-Ukrainian war and geopolitics in general in this region, in particular this country, Ukraine. I see a comment come up here. Really, Moldova election, no, it's not tomorrow, it is today. The voting has already started this morning. It will close this evening, so we will know the results of the election, I think, in the morning. I don't think we will know tonight, because the diaspora vote, at least judging by the presidential election late last year and the EU referendum, vote for a constitutional amendment to put Moldova's path to EU accession into the constitution. Both of those were extremely close, and it was the diaspora vote that swung it in favor of the pro-EU political forces. So probably we will have to wait and see what will be the results in the morning, and then the diaspora vote will be counted, judging by what happened in the last few votes in Moldova. So we'll probably only know the results tomorrow, unless it is a landslide for either side based on the early counting of the votes in Moldova. So that is what's happening. I'm going to end it there. I'm going to get ready for my next live stream on my Livestream channel, my lifestyle channel, this New York experience. And again, drop your comments down below and your questions about Moldova and other big things you think are coming up this week. That, for me, is the biggest geopolitical event that will be taking place. It is going to be a watershed election in Moldova, and we will know more tomorrow. I will be here with a video with the reaction to the results in due course. Okay, cool. I see that. I'm trying to read the name of the son. Maybe I need to move over here to be able to read the name. But you said that you're going to go to Moldova. Okay, Ray. Well, safe travels. So I will say do pobачення from Odessa and la revedere, as they say in Romanian.